Where are the turtles? Where are the turtles?
The turtles.
Where are the
Summer
turtles?
sausage.
Where are the turtles?
Come on, guys, get out of here.
Where are the turtles? You don't pay.
Hey, hello, good ones. I'm going to continue reading something that I started in Spanish, but whatever. I'm just reading Hume's Enquiry concerning human understanding, trying to make an underline, so I'll just read. In this section, I shall settle for something easy, offering only a negative answer to the questions I have raised about what inferences from experience are based on. It is this even after we have experience of the operations of cause and effects. The conclusions we draw from the experience are not based on reasoning or on any process of the understanding. I shall try to explain and defend this answer. It must be granted that nature has kept us at a distance from all its secrets, and has allowed us to know only a few superficial qualities of objects, concealing from us the powers and energies on which the influence of the objects entirely depends. Our senses tell us about the color, weight, and consistency of bread, but neither the senses nor reason can ever tell us about the qualities that enable bread to nourish a human body. Sight or touch give us an idea of the motion of bodies, but as for the amazing force that keeps a body moving, for even unless it collides with other bodies, we cannot have the remotest conception of that, despite the ignorance of natural powers and forces. However, we always assume that the same sensible qualities, qualities that can be seen or felt or heard, etc., will have the same secret powers, and we expect them to have the same effects that we have found them to have in our past experience. If we are given some stuff with the color and consistency of bread that we have eaten in the past, we don't hesitate to repeat the experiment of eating it, confidently expecting it to nourish and support us. That's what we do every morning at the breakfast table, confidently experimenting with bread-like stuff by eating it. I would like to know that the basis is for this process of thought. Everyone agrees that a thing's sensible qualities are not connected with its secret powers, and in any way that we know about, so that the mind isn't led to a conclusion about their constant and regular conjunction through anything it knows of their nature. All that past experience can tell us, directly and for sure, concerns the behavior of particular objects we observed at a particular time when we observed them. I'll just underline that part. And I read, and I read this again. I mean, all that past experience can tell us, directly and for sure, concerns the behavior of the particular objects we observe at the particular time when we observe them. My experience directly and certainly informs me that that fire consumed gold then, but it's silent about the behavior of the same fire a few minutes later and about other fires at any time. Why should this experience be extended to the future times and to other objects, which for all we know may only seem similar? That's what I want to know. The bread that I formerly ate nourished me. In example, a body with such and such sensible qualities did at that time have such and such secret powers. But does it follow that other bread must also nourish me at other times, and that the same perceptual qualities must always be accompanied by the same secret powers? It doesn't seem to follow necessarily. Anyway, it must be admitted that in such a case as the mind draws a conclusion, it takes a certain step, goes through a process of thought or inference, which needs to be explained. These two propositions are far from being the same. First, I have found that such and such an object has always had such and such an effect. Second, I foresee that other objects which appear similar will have similar effects. The second proposition is always inferred from the first, and if you like, I'll grant that it is rightly inferred. But if you insist that the inference is made by a chain of reasoning, I challenge you to produce the reasoning. The connection between this proposition is not intuitive. In example, the second doesn't self-evidently and immediately follow from the first. If the inference is to be conducted through reason alone, it must be with help from some intermediate step. But when I try to think what that intermediate step might be, I am defeated. Those who assert that it really exists and is the origin of all or our conclusions about matters of fact owe us an account of what it is. They haven't given any account of this, which I to be evidence that none can be given. If many penetrating and able philosophers try and fail to discover a connecting proposition or intermediate step through which the understanding can perform these inference from past effects to future ones, my negative line of thought about this will eventually be found entirely convincing. But as a question is still new, the reader may not trust his own abilities enough to conclude that because he can find a certain argument it doesn't exist. In that case, I need to tackle a harder task than I have so far undertaken, namely going through all the branches of human knowledge one by one, trying to show that no one can give us such an argument. All reasonings fall into two kinds. I'm going to underline this, of course. All reasonings fall into two kinds. First, demonstrative reasoning, or that concerning relations of ideas, and two, factual reasoning, or that concerning matters of fact of existence. That no demonstrative arguments are involved in the inference from past to future seems evident, since there is no outright contradiction in supposing that the course of nature will change so that an object that seems like ones we have experienced will have different or contrary effects from theirs. Can't I clearly and distinctly conceive the snowy stuff falling from the clouds might taste salty or feel hot? Is there anything unintelligible about supposing that all the trees will flourish in December and lose their leaves in June? Now, if something is intelligible and can be distinctly conceived, it implies no contradiction and can never be proved false by any demonstrative argument or abstract a priori. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's Latin anyways. A priori reasoning. So, if there are arguments to justify us in trusting past experience and making it the standard of our future judgment, these arguments can only be probable. Oh, this is so important. I will read it again. So, if there are arguments to justify us in trusting past experience and making it the standard of our future judgment, these arguments can only be probable. In example, they must be of the kind of the second, which was factual reasoning, that concerns matters of fact and real existence, to put it on terms of the classification I have given. But probable reasoning, if I have described it accurately, can provide us with the argument we are looking for. According to my account, all arguments about existence are based on the relation of cause and effect. Our knowledge of that relation is derived entirely from experience, and in drawing conclusions from experience, we assume that the future will be like the past. So, if we try to prove this assumption by probable arguments, in example, arguments regarding existence, we shall obviously be going in a circle, taking for granted the very point that is in question. In reality, all arguments from experience are based on the similarities that we find among natural objects, which lead us to expect that the effects of the objects will also be similar. Although only a fool or a madman will ever challenge the authority of experience or reject it as a guide to human life, Still, perhaps a philosopher may be allowed to ask what is about human nature that gives this mighty authority to experience and led us to profit from the similarities that the nature has established among different objects. Well, I'm definitely putting that in red. Um, Only a fool or a madman will ever challenge experience. If this were based on reason, oh sorry, our inferences from experience all boil down to this. From causes that appear similar, we expect similar effects. Oh no. Damn. Oops. Okay. From causes that appear similar, we expect similar effects. Causality. Causality is on our side, not on reality's or nature's side. That's the idea, I think. A very Kantian issue and a very Kantian provocal from Hume, anti-chronologically, anachronically. Well, Hume continues. If this were based on a reason, we could draw the conclusion as well after a single instance as after a long course of experience, but that isn't not the fact. Sorry, but that isn't in fact how things stand. Nothing so similar as sex, yet no one expects them all to taste the same. When we become sure of what will result from a particular event, it is only because we have experienced many events of that kind, all with the same effects. Well, this also, I think it's important, yes. Now, where is that process of reasoning that infers from one instance a conclusion that was not inferred from 100 previous instances, just like this single one? I ask this for the sake of information as much as with the intention of raising difficulties. I can't imagine any such reasoning, but I am willing to learn if anyone, but I am willing to learn if anyone can teach me. It may be said that, from a number of uniform experiences, we infer a connection between the sensible qualities and the secret powers, but this seems to raise the same difficulty in different words. We shall have to ask what process of argument this inference is based on. Where is the intermediate step? The interposing ideas, which joins propositions that are so different from one another. It is agreed that the color, consistency, and other sensible qualities of bread don't appear to be inherently connected with the secret powers of nourishment and life support. If they were, we could infer these secret powers from a first encounter with those qualities, without the aid of long previous experience, and this contradicts what all philosophers believe and contradicts plain matters of fact. Start by thinking of us in our natural state of ignorance, in which we know nothing about the powers and influence of anything. How does experience cure this ignorance? All it does is to show us that certain similar objects had similar effects. It teaches us that those particular objects had such and such powers and forces at those particular times. When a new object with similar perceptible qualities is produced, we expect similar powers and forces and look for a similar effect. We expect, for instance, that stuff with the color and consistency of bread will nourish us. But this surely is a movement of the mind that needs to be explained when a man says, I have found in all past instances such and such sensible qualities conjoined with such and such secret powers, and then goes on to say, Similar sensible qualities will always be combined with similar secret powers. He is not guilty of merely repeating himself. These propositions are in no way the same. The second proposition is inferred from the first, you may say, but you must admit that the inference isn't intuitive. Um, it can be seen at glance to be valid, and it isn't demonstrative either. Can be carried through by a series of steps, each of which can be seen at a glance to be valid. What kind of inference is it then? To call it experiential is to assume the point that is in question. For all inferences from experience are based on the assumption that the future will resemble the past, and that similar powers will be combined with similar sensible qualities. As soon as the suspicion is planted that the course of nature may change, so that the past stops being a guide to the future, all experience becomes useless and can't support any inference or conclusion. So no arguments from experience can support this resemblance of the past to the future, because all such arguments are based on the assumption of that resemblance. However regular the course of things has been, the fact on its own doesn't prove that the future will also be regular. I think this is important. However regular the course of things has been, the fact on its own doesn't prove that the future will also be regular. It's no use your claiming to have learned the nature of bodies from your past experience, their secret nature, and consequently all their effects and influence may change without any change in their sensible qualities. This happens sometimes with regard to some objects. Why couldn't it happen always with regard to all? What logic, what process of argument secures you against this? You may say that I don't behave as though I have doubts about this, but that will reflect a misunderstanding of why I'm raising these questions. When I'm considering how to act, I'm quite satisfied that the future will be like the past. But as a philosopher with an inquiring, I won't say skeptical, turn of mind, I want to know what this confidence is based on. Nothing I have read nor research I have done has yet been able to remove my difficulty. Can I do better than to put the difficulty before the public, even though I may not have much hope of being given a solution? In this way, we shall at least be aware of our ignorance, even if we don't increase our knowledge. It would be unexcusably arrogant to conclude that because I haven't discovered a certain argument, it doesn't really exist. Even if a learned men down to centuries have searched for something without finding it, perhaps it will still be rash to conclude with confidence that the subject must surpass human understanding, even though we examine all the sources of our knowledge and conclude that they are unfit for a given subject. We must still suspect that the list of sources is not complete or our examination of them not accurate. With regard to our present subject, however, there are reasons to think that my conclusion is certainly right and that I am not arrogant in thinking so. It is certain that the most ignorant and stupid peasants, even infants, indeed even brute beasts, improve by experience and learn the qualities of natural objects by observing their effects. When a child has felt pain from touching the flame of a candle, he will be careful not to put his hand near any candle and will expect a similar effect from any cause that is similar in its appearance. If you assert that the child's understanding comes to this conclusion through a process of argument, it is fair for me to demand that you produce that argument, and you have no excuse for refusing to do so. You can say that the argument has eluded you because it is so difficult and complex, because you have just said that a mere infant finds it easy. So, if you hesitate for a moment, or if after reflection you produce an intricate or profound argument, you have in effect given up your side in this dispute. You have as good as admitted that this isn't through reasoning that we are led to suppose the future to resemble the past, and to expect similar effects from apparently similar causes. This is the proposition that I intend to establish in the present section. Hmm, I think I'm underlining this. Okay, I hope I remember that well. This is the proposition that I intended to establish in this present section. If I'm right about it, I don't claim it as any great discovery. If I'm wrong, then there is an argument from past to future which was perfectly familiar to me long before I was out of my cradle. Yet now I can discover it. What a backward scholar I must be. That's so funny. Hume's senses of humor. Well, section 5. Skeptical solution of these doubts. The passion for philosophy, like that for religion, involves a certain danger. Although it aims to correct our behavior and wipe our vices, it may, through not being handled properly, end up merely encouraging us to carry on in directions that we are already naturally inclined to follow. We may set out to achieve philosophical wisdom and firmness, and to become satisfied with the pleasures of the mind as distinct from those of the body, yet reason ourselves out of all virtue as well as all social enjoyment, ending up with a philosophy which, like that of Epictetus and other Stoics, is only a more refined system of selfishness. Oh god damn. Well, I'll leave it right here because of issues. So, well, that was section 4, I guess. See you in another one.